Shalom, welcome to Rob on the Rock. Today we're going to look at a small section here from the end of the book of Numbers. This is from among the Dead Sea Scrolls, but it's not from Qumran. Remember, the scribe scholar Emmanuel Tov differentiates biblical texts from the Qumran area as being a different type of scribal discipline in terms of preserving texts of scripture and other texts from Tov discerns Qumran type manuscripts from non-Qumran, and that is the larger Judean desert. So there were other caves, not part of the Qumran community, that contained manuscripts. And today we're going to look at one, and this is the little bit we have here from the book of Numbers. It's from Numbers 36, verse 8, which we'll look at in a second. I just want you to see the original photograph here so you can see a color, the color of the leather and the letters here. And this is from Wadi Murabaat. So here's a Google Earth image of the land of Israel. Of course, the Sea of Galilee is up here, the Jordan River. So remember, the Sea of Galilee, this is 700, the surface of this is about 700 feet below sea level. So if we take the Mediterranean sea level as the go point, you would, even though you have to travel through the Galilean hills, of course, to get to the Sea of Galilee, you will have descended in elevation 700 feet. And then the Dead Sea is another 700 or more feet below that in elevation. So the Jordan River, which descends from the Sea of Galilee in the north, southward roughly, wiggling back and forth, of course, into the Dead Sea, which is about 14 or more hundred feet below sea level. And so this is where we are. This is the Judean desert here. Jerusalem's up and to the left. And so we're going to zoom in here. Now, Qumran is up here in the northwest corner. But what we're going to look at today is where this cave was found. We go to what's called Nahal Draga here. And so it runs, there's a Nahal, so when it rains in the Judean hills, we get flash floods through this, and this will be a Nahal, which means it can be a rapid stream or like a rapid river flow, but it's temporary. It dries up real quick. So it runs out into the desert and then dries up again. And so you can see, I'm just going to go slowly. Hopefully this is not dizzyfying. Here's the Dead Sea. We think the water was higher than this back in the ancient days, but you can follow this. You can kind of get a sense of the geography here of the Nahal as it runs out from the high Judean desert into the Dead Sea. And I believe it's somewhere around in this cliff area. I'll zoom back out to get a sense. It's either in this corner or this next one over here. I don't know for sure. I don't remember. But it is the cave that they call Murabat, pardon me. And it is where this text that we're going to look at was found. Again, it's this little fragment, and there were other fragments too found in the cave, but not of Numbers. And so what I'm going to do is now shift to my writing board here, and this is the black and white image, so it helps us see the letters more clearly. And scholars estimate this text was from the Roman period, which means it's post-Herodian, and it's dated to roughly 115 CE, or Common Era. So just that would be only 45 years after 70. Do the math here. Well, what's 70 AD? The destruction of the temple. And this is not the text here is not like the text from the Qumran community, the Dead Sea Scrolls Qumran community. This is Dead Sea Scrolls from a but from a different Jewish group. And this text matches that of the Masoretic text very tightly. And this is the passage. The passage is Numbers 36:8. Every daughter who comes into possession of an inheritance of any tribe of the sons of Israel shall be wife to one of the family of the tribe of her father, so that the sons of Israel each may possess the inheritance of his fathers. Now, of course, the whole text is not here, but we can see certain things here, and I'll go through and highlight them. So one is the name Israel right here, and what we would see before here is B'nai, so the sons of Israel, B'nai, and then we have Yod, and then we have a Shin, which is also a Sin. We have a Resh, we have an Aleph, and I'm going to go over letter formation here in a little bit, and a Lamed. B'nai Yisrael. So if we were to write that in our newer block script, it would be B'nai, Bet Nun Yod, Yod Sin, right? Resh, Aleph, Lamed, like that. B'nai Yisrael. And that's the end of the prior verse. So the verse ends there. So we'd put a little colon or a comma. And then it says v'kol. So we have vav, kol, and every daughter, v'kol bat. And so we would, if we had this continued, it would be something like that, v'kol bat, dot, dot, dot. And that's the beginning of our verse that we're looking at. And we can see much of it's missing, sadly, but we see enough here. We see the Lamed here. It goes, I'm just going to trace it out like a little number 7, and then the tall dinosaur neck, the Aleph, the Chet, Dalet, Le'achad. This is the word one of, where it goes down here in our one of the family, right? So we see Kolbat is at the beginning, and then everything else is missing, and then one of the family, right? That's what we see next here. Le'achad memishpachot. But so instead of just demonstrating that this is in fact the verse that I'm saying it is known that that's what it is, I wanted to just look at how special the letters now are being formed, of the ones that are visible here. The Aleph, you can see it's actually I think it's a very handsome writing. The letters are consistent. They're kind of short and chubby, right? They're short and wide and stable. This was a very skilled scribe writing these letters, and there's certain ornamentation that we see. So let's, for example, look at the Resh. So we have a Resh here and a Resh here, the Dalet and the Chet. Let's look at those first. And then here we have another Chet down here, because they all share. So I'll tell you what, before we even do the Resh, let's just do the Dalet and the Chet. The stroke was like this. It was up and then down. And then if you're going to make a Dalet, you make the same exact motion, but backwards like that. So it's like a little arrow, then up, and then an arrow sideways. That's how they make. Now, the nib on my digital pen doesn't match their nib, but because theirs was probably more blunt. So that's the Dalet. And then some of the Chets look very much like the Dalet, except they add a vertical line like this. Now, there are two, if you look at the other manuscripts from Genesis, it's the same scribal hand. You have, sometimes they do this for a Chet. And sometimes they do something like that. but the dalet like that. So there are very specific scribal norms that are starting to really solidify. And my opinion is that this script that we see here matches what you would see probably in the newest, if we went back to right before 70, right before the destruction of the temple, and looked at temple scrolls of the most recent high quality scrolls of the Tanakh that were preserved by the scribes there at the temple, you'd see something that looked, with the writing that looked like this. The Reish, which is this guy right here, is, remember the dalet, we go like this. The Reish has the same initial stroke, but then he curves down. Now, I don't know, did he lift and do a second stroke, or did he just do a stroke like that? Something like that. But we're seeing these little horns that are on these letters. They're not absolutely critical to be there, but they're there. In other words, they're not critical for discerning that letter, the Reish from the dalet, for example. But they're added as a nice elaboration, an artistic elaboration. So we looked at the chet and the dalet and the Reish. The aleph is really interesting. We have one that's up here that's a little bit missing, or a little bit crumpled, but we know that the aleph probably was a few strokes, something like this, and then one of those, and then like that. So I'm not the best at making alephs like this. I just go with the block one like that because it's easy for me. It's the kindergarten style. So we've looked at the aleph. Let's look at some vavs. So we have a yod here for Israel and a vav. They're very close. Here's one. Here's a vav and a yod, or yod and a vav together. So this is just a matter more of length. They're very close to each other. Now let's look at the lamed. The lamed, we see several here. Here's one that's nice to see. So we can see it's like a quick arrow like that, and then that kind of motion. So this kind of motion, whether like with the dalet where we go like this, or the lamed where we go like this kind of switchback in both directions is a kind of scribal marking that is used over and over again in different directions to make these different letters. Finally, we have an ayin, like way down here, for example. Here's an ayin. Oops. So we see all these, but I wanted to finish just with the letter sheen, seen. So we see with the word Israel, we have it here. We have it here. And in this case, in the upper left or upper right, the later scribes would put a diacritical mark on the left indicating a seen. Here, they would put one on the right indicating a sheen. But remember, back then, they were speaking Hebrew. They didn't have a problem knowing which one to pronounce, because the same symbol can be a s sound or a sh sound depending on context. But I think our best example of the scribal sheen of these two is this one right here. And in my view, the strokes are first one of those zigzags, oops, I'm not sure what happened there. Like that, and then probably this one, and then finally this one. So do that one more time. Now it looks like he could almost have done that, but it's hard to discern whether he twisted the pen or not. It could just be something like this. But in any case, I just think that's a really, really neat sheen. Now mine don't look as cool as his do. But it is a distinct sheen. Like in my sloppy script, I just do something like this. Or I might do this, where I do a line and then connect it down. But this is really neat. And we can look at this other one too. Here it's more evident. And so he didn't use exactly the same markings every time. See here, this time he didn't put any kind of extra tittle on the end of that. He just went like this. And this is the same scribe, right? So just like if you're scribbling something, a letter or writing out, or even being careful, you might not be consistent from letter to letter. So we've been looking at a fragment from the year roughly 115 CE. So this is 1900 years old, from the book of Numbers, from the end of the book of Numbers. And it is a non-Qumran DSS, Dead Sea Scroll. Sometimes we think of the Dead Sea Scrolls and we think, oh, Qumran. And that's, the bulk of it is Qumran. If we go back to our Google Earth, Qumran being way up here in the north part of the Dead Sea, northwest. But there are other Judean desert finds of texts, also from people that had fled Jerusalem, Jewish communities that are not allied with the Essenes at Qumran. So this is another Ancient Torah Manuscripts presentation for Rob on the Rock. I'm Rob Van Hoff. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and like my video, share it with others. And also, I'm grateful for any financial support if you've been blessed or edified in any way. Thank you and shalom.